Hello everybody, MegaZardX here, back at it again to give you another very exciting collection reflection video where I take the time out to just go through my whole entire gaming library. Could be a game, could be a limited edition, could be a console, but today we're going to be talking about none other than Dragon Ball Z Budakai Tenkaichi 2. Oh shoot. This game right here, believe it or not, was actually the very first Dragon Ball game I have ever owned. And I think it was roughly around this point where I was starting to kind of slowly get introduced to the anime and stuff. So this is like probably one of the most pivotal and most important and one of the most cherished anime related games that I own right here within this one right here because I figured today would be a perfect time to go ahead and talk about this in the collection reflection video because we had Dragon Ball Z, or basically Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 4, which is actually called now as Sparking Zero, what is known as in Japan, coming out literally in a few days from now, along with the anime release for Dragon Ball Daima and stuff like that. So quite a heavy Dragon Ball focused week. So I was like, you know what, I might as well get ahead of the game and go ahead and talk about one of the very first Dragon Ball games that I personally own. So we might as well go ahead and jump up in it though. So if you hadn't already done so, make sure you're going to hit that like button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things video game related I feel like talking about and discussing. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight up into this video. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2. Man, oh man, I remember picking up this game. I think it was with me, my dad, and my brother at the time. And you know how you go to your local pawn shops and stuff, and they'll be like, oh, you know, some of them might be selling games here and there. Though I think it was like some place that was about to shut down in like about a week or two, or at most maybe a month or something like that. And then he was like, alrighty, both of y'all get to pick out a game or something like that. And I think at the time I felt like I picked out Sonic Unleashed. If memory serves me right, I might be wrong on this, but I remember picking up some kind of game. I want to say it was Unleashed. And my brother picked up Tenkaichi 2, I think. Or it could have been the other way around or something like that. But I just know that we got it at a pawn shop that was about to shut down. And gosh by golly, I'm so glad that we, as our family, managed to walk away with this game right here because I mean, this game means a lot to me. Now, in terms of like my Dragon Ball history and stuff, I believe at the time I remember going through and watching Dragon Ball Z Kai back on, what was it, Nicktoons back in the day, like, you know, not Nickelodeon, but like Nicktoons is like one of those higher channels and stuff. And for the longest time they always liked to play the Saiyan saga, the Frieza saga, the Cell saga. I knew of the existence of Majin Buu something, but I never got to see the anime of it. And the reason why I knew it was thanks to this game right here, though. And, you know, they put those three different sagas on loot. So that's how I got acquainted with Dragon Ball. So the combination of that plus this game right here kind of built my knowledge of everything Dragon Ball, at least at those early times. This is like what? Well, obviously during the Wii era and stuff like that. So like around 2010ish or something like that, though. So honestly, I had a lot of great fond memories with this game. And obviously, I think, you know, this wasn't just a Wii game. It also came out like on the Xbox systems, I think on PlayStation as well. And the one thing I really did like about this one version with the Wii version is all the motion controls. Like it felt like you were one within the game. Like you were actually kind of doing half of these motions. Because man, if you pull up like the menu selection thing and go into the options and then all the controls and stuff, like each one of these different game or each one of these different moves, everything from a simple Kamehameha to simple blast attacks or something like that, or a counter or trying to do like an ultimate and stuff, it's all like the shaking of the nunchuk and like a jab with the Wii remote. A lot of that was, or holding like I think Z and B at the same time, pulling it back like a Kamehameha and then like released it like that. Like, man, it was just some wild stuff that you're able to do up in that game though. And I thoroughly enjoyed it for like the single player campaign as well as just playing that multiplayer because you can play it with you along with like one other person though. So let me at least just talk about the single player campaign because it was very simple in terms of like a story. You're just working your way through all the different sagas. You start off with the Saiyan saga, you work your way all the way up through the Majin Buu saga. So I had a really good, strong understanding between most things between Saiyan and the Cell saga. But the Majin Buu saga, by the time I got to that, I was like, wait a minute, I don't remember seeing this in the show. I was like, what the heck is going on over here? So that's like the first inclusion of me learning anything within the Majin Buu saga. So it was kind of good learning point, at least with that within this one game, just learning everything that happens in that art though. But I was kind of confused with seeing like what was it like Evil Boo being like a gray creature and thing, and like the split between him and like Fat Boo, and then the fusion, and then that made Super Boo and stuff. Like it was kind of complicated seeing how that worked, and I didn't fully understand it until I actually saw the show way later on, just watching like the original Dragon Ball Z and such. But the sagas and stuff was, pretty simple and stuff like that. Now, obviously, while you're going through and playing through the game and stuff, you have like a lot of different myriad of different controls with all the different motion and stuff like that, which I did like that. Just hitting like B button just to fire out a bunch of Kai things, or holding like the Z button, I believe, was like just to charge your Kai energy. You have like all of these different Kai bars and stuff. So, depending on what kind of special you want to use, you need to have so many different stages already unlocked. And the transformations, that's what makes a Tenkaichi game a Tenkaichi game in comparison to like a Xenoverse or like a Dragon Ball Fighter Z, like more, some of the more recent Dragon Ball games we gotten up until today, though. Because, man, there's some kind of feeling about starting off as base Goku and working your way through Super Saiyan 1, Super Saiyan 2, my personal favorite, Super Saiyan 3. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, and then also the character diversity up in this game. Like, there were so many different characters you were able to play, both hero as well as villains. Like, literally, you can play something as basic as like a Saberman, from the Cell Saga and stuff. Like, basic old creatures like that, to the Ginyu Force, like all of those members. And then my personal favorite, I think one of my favorite characters in the game was obviously Gohan. Like Gohan from Super Saiyan, or I said Super Saiyan, Gohan from the Cell Saga. That was like, I think, my favorite version of Gohan. Not like Ultimate Gohan, or like his older form, and not like, definitely not the kid Gohan that was like in the Frieza saga. No, 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 no. That Teen Gohan, that's his peak Gohan perfection right there. I felt like that was him at his absolute best, and I feel like he hasn't gotten quite there yet, even in the anime nowadays, until like, I guess, like most recently with that movie where it kind of starred him and Piccolo and stuff. Like, maybe, we're kind of getting closer back to it, though. Because at least back then, Gohan didn't like fighting, but once he hit that Super Saiyan 2 level, he's like, I don't give two craps about you. You lay a hand on one of my loved ones, and so be it, I'll end your life right there. And like, oh my gosh, like that's just raw energy like that. So I did like all the different characters you're able to play as and such. And some of those transformations that weren't necessarily unlocked from like day one, you had to go through and unlock a bunch of things. Like every form of like a Saiyan that had like a grade 8 form, you had to unlock that mess. And it's like, felt like it was kind of convoluted, a little more so than what it really needed to be. But you had to play during certain points of the story. And I remember like charging up and like dashing like a Z dash or whatever, and busting up like rocky terrain and such to get like these little orbs and stuff you'll see on the ground. You have to get them during the middle of a fight. So sometimes you'd be avoiding an enemy for dear life, just trying to collect some items on the field, just so you're able to upgrade certain characters, or be able to unlock like some of their transformations and stuff. So yeah, it was a long task. I remember like looking up guides and stuff. Like, the internet, it's not quite the same internet as what we know as today, but I remember just going through a whole bunch of different guides and stuff, just trying to go through and figure out, all right, which fusion items you need to get and pair it with what in order to create the item to unlock a lot of these different transformations, and also where to get them, though. So that was always a journey, just trying to go and through all of that. But obviously, you had different modes up in there. You had like the traditional tournament and such, where it's like, hey, you get to fight in the arena and stuff, and if you manage to touch the ground or something like that, or obviously if they knock you out, then hey, that might knock you out, though. You got different other stages, like ones like fighting on Namek or at the Cell games and such. Like, I love all the different stages from like the different eras and the arcs from Dragon Ball Z. Like, that's just some really great stuff. Obviously, like training mode and such, and everything else in between, though. So I always love all the different modes you're able to do in it. It didn't necessarily make the game feel stale by the time you had all those different fighting mechanics in different areas, plus the stages, along with the traditional story mode and stuff. And it wasn't just just the Dragon Ball Z story stuff they had. They also had OG Dragon Ball stuff that transpired as well, along with like the GT stuff, in which case I do remember going through and watching GT as a kid. I thought it was pretty cool. It wasn't nearly as good as like obviously now Dragon Ball Super that we have as of this moment, but at least with some of those GT moments, I was like, man, I love the Omega Shenron art. Like, I thought that was pretty cool. along with just being able to do like the fusions and stuff between Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, and then Gogeta fusing them together. Like, oh my gosh, like that was always another good favorite go-to that I always personally love. I don't know, we hadn't seen anything GT, or at least at the time this recording, hadn't seen a trailer for any GT characters. I feel like that's like some of the last stuff we might be missing from like Spark and Zero. But I feel like they're gonna squeeze them in there at some point. It's just a matter of fact to win. But overall, I love the heck out of this game. Now, obviously, if you're playing this with some friends and stuff, because I managed to play this game all the time with my brother, and then a handful of times with my cousin who happened to come over to the house every now and then, though. And man, oh man, you had some intense fights. Like every time that you would do like a Z dash attack into the other person and they did the same thing, you did like this collision effect where it's like you're just brawling against each other, and it's like whoever wins the tussle wins, and you just have to spam that nunchunk stick over and over and over, to spinning the little stick as many times as you can. And I think the highest I ever got up on it was like 60 hits or something like that to spin it, because I think it measures it for like every tick on the nunchunk. So like, you know, moving north to northeast to east to southeast, like each one of those was like 1 point each. So you know, swirling that thing around as many times, as many revolutions as you possibly can to beat the other person. Man, that makes this guy competitive. Like I would almost say that's like up there with like Mario Party 1 stuff back in the day, where you kind of move that mess around with your hand and stuff, and it gave you like the burnt hands, and they had give you a glove and stuff like that. I felt like it was almost just on the level like that. I love those crazy collisions like that. And then, you know, me trying to play as, you know, weird, wacky characters. Like sometimes I would force myself to play as Hercule, and I say, hey, I was talking to my brother, I was like, hey, you know what? I might be able to beat you with Hercule. And I was like, and he's like, no, you can't do that. I was like, watch me, just watch me, man, just watch me. And I was like, but I don't know. A lot of those times I managed to lose those, because Hercule is arguably like one of the worst characters you can actually choose in the roster, though. But if you can clap somebody's cheeks with that character, though, that can go. That shows a testament to your fighting prowess, in terms of, you know, you being able to go through and play through this game at a competent level. So that's one thing I really did like about this game. But I can go on and on about this game forever, though. But at least in terms of Dragon Ball games, like Tenkaichi 2 was like one of my first and one of my most beloved games. And I did play the third one in this series because my cousin owned that one. So I, you know, most of my experience was in 2. I had a little bit of experience within 3. So I think he had that on the Xbox 360, I think at the time, or something like that. But yeah, so that's where most of my experience is. And I think since then I managed to get like Dragon Ball um, Xenoverse 2, and I got Dragon Ball Fighter Z, and I got Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. I think that's most of the extent of most of my Dragon Ball games. I never owned any like on the GBA or the DS or something like that, which I heard there were some decently good ones, or some like RPG style ones. So maybe I'll get around to getting that at some point in the future, though. But yeah, Dragon Ball Z Budakai Tenkaichi 2, man, this is a beloved classic, at least in my own heart. I might need to get around to streaming this game, maybe shortly before the launch of Spark and Zero. So just plug it into the Wii U and maybe stream it. Don't hold me to it though. But that thought has been running in the background in my mind just a little bit though. But yeah, I can go on and on about it, but I'll leave all of it there. But y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below what all do you think about Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2. And have you managed to play this game or any other ones in the series, like the first one, the second one, or the third one, or even just the standard Budokai ones? Like I think I had I also had the first Budokai one, not the Tenkaichi one, but the first Budokai one on GameCube as well. So let me know if you have any one of those few games as well. But yeah, that's gonna basically do it for today's video though. So remember, y'all, until our video I make next, see y'all.